Hi, this is Jamie Kay. A little of that and a little of this today. Um, I've been watching the news a whole lot lately, and I've been following different aspects of different things, and I really hit on something that I think people need to understand some things. It seems to me that this Pizzagate thing keeps coming up over and over and over. I'm going to be very blunt and very honest and forthcoming. I'm not going to hide anything. It may be very ugly, it may be hard to swallow, it may be hard to take, but I'm going to be very blunt and very honest to the Democrats here and anybody else who was watching. I'm a recovering alcoholic and a drug addict. Reason being is because I did grow up in foster homes all of my life, and most of my childhood in group homes, in and out of foster homes. So I do know a little bit more than a lot of people have ever dared talk about or discuss, because as far as everybody else is concerned, the states need to hide it, sweep it under the carpet, get rid of it, because they don't want to take responsibility for this. We have government agencies who actually do sell children under the wires. And those are the children that nobody wants. And the reason I know about this is because growing up in foster homes, kids knew. And there was a code. The code was don't trust anybody. Don't trust a cop. Don't trust a priest. Don't trust a doctor. Trust no one. Not even your closest friends. Because we don't make friends and we don't keep friends. We don't have relationships that we can stay in long enough to establish anything. And anybody who is a foster kid who knows exactly what I'm talking about. It's called the fear of flight of running. And those of us who were running away all the time and turned into the police and handed over to our social workers. And if you reported it to a social worker back in the day, the sad part was the social worker would tell you to be grateful that a family wants you. They wouldn't report it to their supervisors. It would just get swept under the table. I have been raped by so many foster people. The mothers, the sons, the daughters, the fathers, the uncles. You name it, and it's happened. And the ugly truth is that the states, like I said, sweep it under the carpet because the more money they get from our local government, the better their numbers are. For every child that is put into foster care, it is for the reason of saying the parents are unfit, they're not in a safe place. They find more bullshit excuses than anybody. And I'm sorry, my prompter is telling me to smile and watch my language. So I'm going to smile and I'm going to watch my language. But I'm not promising you a thing. And the sad part is that the social workers have to have numbers. And these numbers are quotas of children that can be funneled and lost and nobody gives a crap about. And those are the children that are normally in poverty neighborhoods. Prevalent drug abuse areas, alcoholism area, whatever. I'm just going to be honest here, okay? They just like going after poor people because they can't afford the lawyers to fight the system. And the system will do anything it can to make sure it wins and you lose. Many fathers have committed suicide over the fact that they could not see their children. I lost my children to the state of Minnesota. The surprising thing was I won, and I got them back. And by the standards of Minnesota, they had no right to be involved in my life. It was due to a pregnancy. They had no reason to be involved, and they acknowledged it when we went through the courts. And the sad part is that kids who grow up in foster homes or runaways are the biggest marks of all. And these so-called pizzerias, well, when a friend tells a friend how they can make some money for the night or maybe possibly have a place to sleep, it's called selling your body. It's called getting drunk so when it's happening you don't have to remember it. Or you close your eyes and you float about out of your body because you don't want to be there. Because this grown man is forcing himself upon you. I'm going to be blunt now. And this is going to get very graphic. And my suggestion is if you have any children, take them out of the room. Tell them you love them and give them a hug. But tell them sometimes there are grown-up conversations that children don't need to hear. And this is the sad truth about foster homes and group homes. It's the numbers, people. And the number game is, if a kid is lost, that's less money for them. The numbers are up, the numbers are better, and the money keeps flowing in. Who's going to miss a foster kid? No one. Who knows about that foster kid? No one. Because when we get to these foster homes, we're lucky if we can go to classes. We're lucky if we can go to school. Because most of the time what ends up happening is we're used as farm hands and sexual toys and abused in every single way while the state sends them money for their foster care system. Well, their system is so broken down that when somebody does do or say something or makes a ripple, a positive ripple, they lose their job. They get fired immediately and let go. Because if there's a caseworker that's willing to rat out the numbers, that means their paycheck is less. I remember telling my social workers a few times I was being sexually assaulted. And I described to her the graphics of everything. She looked at me and slapped me in the face and told me to shut my mouth. I was lying about these people. Like I said, foster kids, we have a code. The code of honor is fear of flight. And we will fly every time. Because like I said, we trust no one. Now this is where you send your child out. To the point. When I was 5 years old, my mother used to run with some people that she shouldn't have ran with, did some things she shouldn't have done. Okay, I've forgiven her for that. But now this is where the can of worms opens up. I woke up one time in a hospital. I had gotten hit by a car because I was riding a bike. I guess I was about, I'd say 5, 6 years old. I woke up in a hospital, and then afterwards I was immediately transported into a group home in Minnesota. And the thing was, is when I realized what the hell was going on, it was already too late. I was already getting high at the age. I was already smoking cigarettes at that age. My world had already been rocked by my mother's ex-boyfriends and pimps. So I already knew things I shouldn't have known. And I got a much better education as I grew up in foster homes. They call it the education of being a prostitute and how to basically run a whorehouse so you don't get caught. Or how you can open a foster home and get paid to run these children through because they're just numbers. There's not no faces. They're just an ID number. That's it. So I'm going to tell you what it's like. My third night in this house of this group home, okay? A gentleman came in, sat on my bed, was talking to me. Next thing I know, his hand is doing the Russian roulette up my sheets and in between my legs. When I tried pushing and moving away, no, he pinned me down. When I started to yell and scream and cry, he covered my mouth with a pillow. And he continued to force himself upon me over and over and over. And he was actually making my hand fondle his cock. And then he decided he wanted the good old-fashioned blowjob. Do you know what it's like at the age of 5 to have some man taking your head and slamming it into somebody's dick and shoving it so far back to your throat that you are gagging and crying and not understanding why this man is shoving his finger in your crotch and telling you that you're a good little girl and stroking your hair and saying, oh, you're my baby, I'll take care of you, nobody will ever hurt you, I love you, you're my favorite. Imagine that night after night after night. Well, I'd say after the 6th night of that, I learned the word runaway quickly. Because this one girl who had gotten caught and brought back to the house, the group home, she knew. She looked into my eyes and she knew. That night, she came in my room, woke me up, and got me out and said we were going to run away. And we did. We ran. We ran hard and we ran fast and we didn't stop. And we kept running. We kept running in any direction and every direction, knowing it wasn't in that direction of where that group home was. And we would hide out in alleys, abandoned gas stations, broken down apartments, whatever we could, we did, garages, whatever. If it kept us warm for a couple nights, we were there. And if we knew where somebody was having some food in restaurants we could raid without getting caught, we did it. Now, all these Democrats and politicians who have turned a blind eye over and over to the foster care system, to the children in this system, who turn a blind eye willingly, freely, and all. So, I love her. May I have ma, please? Let me tell you something. As a child, having a grown man on top of you, no child deserves more, because your paycheck is going to get a bonus. And let me tell you about some of the other atrocities foster parents do and collect their welfare checks and their food stamps. They'll take the children in and they'll give the children the hand-me-downs and all of the housework and everything that needs to be done. And when that check comes in with the clothing allowance, the food allowance, the cash allowance, well, that money goes into their personal account to do with as they please. So what do? They take this money and they take these receipts and go shopping for their children and do the old hand-me-downs. And then when you're in a group home or foster home, they have the audacity to have you write letters to your family saying how much you're enjoying where you're at. Not only that, they have you write letters to the social workers thanking them for this beautiful family that is sexually assaulting a child. But as for you Democrats, you think you have done a bang-up job. And for all you Republicans who went along with it, I hope you're wearing the egg on your face well. The sad part is it is true about what they're telling you. I should know. Growing up in foster homes, you miss out on school. You miss out on life. You miss on parent guidance. You miss out on having somebody to look up to. You miss out on having a family member to tell you what to do when you can't cope with a situation. Why can't you cope? Because you don't learn these skills. Why can't you read and write? Because your foster parents and group homes are keeping these kids from school. Because if they keep them stupid and ignorant, it's easier and also doped up. This is where the pharmaceuticals come in. The first thing they do to a child coming into the system Take them to a psychologist. 5 minutes. Back in the day, it wasn't even 5 minutes. You'd walk in the door and the foster parent say, yeah, I got this new child today. It's a foster care. It's from this county. This is their height. This is their weight. This is this. And the next thing you know, that child's walking out with every freaking drug on the program all the way down to trazodone. No child belongs on trazodone. They used that back in the day on psych wards. It's called the lean. And they wonder why kids are hooked on drugs. Because the foster home, group home system get these kids hooked on every drug there is. You name it, they're on it. And then, when they're getting to be 17 or 18, sorry, you gotta go, your time's up, state's out of money, I don't know what to tell you. You're on the street as far as they're concerned. There may be some foster parents who are doing the right thing. There may be some foster parents who adopted the foster child who are doing the right thing. But I gotta tell you, those numbers are so freaking minute, it's not even funny minute. They don't want children past the age of 5 months. They definitely don't want a child after the age of 5. Then you're called the shuffle around child. Now the shuffle around child means you don't get to make any permanent contacts with these people. Because somebody might set off the truth that, hey, these kids in foster care and group homes are being raped every 5 fucking minutes. 10 minutes if you wanted to count the break in there. And the sad part is these women turn their backs on the fact that their family members are doing this crap. And why? Because of domestic violence. It all goes hand in hand. Women end up in domestic violence because guess what? So do men. You know how? I'll tell you how. Because there's nobody to guide them or protect them. You have these guardian enlightenments. Yeah, wonderful group. But do you know they bury their shit under the carpet just as much as everybody else? I have documents that can prove this shit. Okay, I'll give you names. Warren Harding. Daughter. Had a kid. Okay? Had a kid with a foster child. And then they did the DNA test and proved it was his. While the child was screaming rape, hey, help me. They tried to get rid of her. Quietly. I had my first abortion at the age of 13. Because one of my foster parents' sons impregnated me. How do you think that made me feel waking up on a table, drugged out of my mind, some woman standing over me and saying, it'll be okay. And I hear this whistling sound, and the next thing I know, I'm feeling my insides being ripped out. Ripped out. I mean as in, I am fully conscious of the pain of something being tore out of me. They took me home. I hemorrhaged. I end up back at that place, and guess what? They had to do a D&C. How many children at 13 know what a D&C is? How many kids at 13 should even know how to give an adult man a blowjob with your hand underneath it and by his ball sack? I could be the best prostitute on the planet, but I choose not to do it or acknowledge it or anything. 5 years of therapy it took me to learn to forgive myself. Because these asshole Democrats in office don't give a shit about your kid. I still have nightmares to this very day. 5 years in therapy is a little long to have to deal with the nightmares that barrage us. It could be a smell, it could be a sound, it could be something. The isolation we live in, you'll have no idea. None. You have no idea of the nightmares that sometimes when I'm sleeping at night, it feels like somebody is raping me and all that is there is a sheet. But it feels like a ton of men on top of me. That's how I became an alcoholic and drug addict. Because I ended up in relationships where I thought men having sex with me was love. Because I thought relationships meant men were allowed to beat the shit out of their women. Because I thought love was a black eye with a glass stem hanging out. Or a bottle in my hand. Or some pills being swallowed. Yeah, suicide attempt, a few. Not proud of it. Not proud of the fact that I ended up on a psych ward either. But at least the doctor understood I was having a nuclear meltdown because my ex-husband had just made me deaf. I wear the hearing aids to prove the damage he's done. The thing is, when you're in a relationship with a man who domestically abuses you and you think it's okay, it's not your fault. Whether you're a man or a woman and you're in something domestic, no, it's not your fault because it's what you were taught. Get numb with the drunk. Bloody bones, bloody noses, broken bones, go away. And no one will ever know. Wear long sleeves, wear lots of makeup, cover it up and say you fell. Or the door hit you in the face. Or I got hit by the cabinet. And you're wearing sunglasses in the middle of the night. Really? Or you got bruises everywhere that you're trying to explain away. It's not love. It took me a long time to understand the concept. But when a foster kid is forgotten in the system and then all of a sudden tossed to the wolves, it even gets worse. I was lucky. I figured out the system very quickly. And because I figured out that system quickly, I also figured out how to avoid it. I knew the places to stay out of. I knew that the court systems were just looking for me to bring me back, right back where I came from. I mean, the police would literally find me in another county or another state other than Minnesota. They would call up the police. They would call my social worker. And they would say, hey, guess what? Yep, and back to the group home, and back through the cycle again. And then the cycle would continue over and over. Now, it's not nice to be a child and have to have a woman forcing herself on you, and her husband grabbing your arm and shoving it up her crotch and telling you that it's a wonderful gift that God gave them. It's not wonderful having a man force himself upon you because he feels that he has the just right. And for the Democrats and the Republicans and our government, really, you want to talk about lost? You want to talk about all of the shit that you're talking about? Really, people? How about the children that you don't know are being abused every day? How about the children that are going to school right now that you don't know are being sexually assaulted? How about the children that you're letting your friends watch could be sexually assaulting your child and you don't even know it? And the sad part is, this whole fucking thing is everybody is worried about who did what to whom and what, where, and how. You know what Donald Trump's trying to do? Fix the fucking shit that y'all screwed up on. And everybody is keeping it in the dark. Why? Why are you keeping it in the dark? Why are you not talking about the children in our own fucking country who are having atrocities every fucking day? Social workers who don't go checking these children. Children who are dying in dog cages, for God's sakes. You all seem to think that you're all much grander and that burying your heads in the sand is going to make this go away and make you feel better. Well, it's about time somebody talks about it. Now look at the rosy little picture of the little girl who won the Olympics and is now the darling doll. Congratulations to you, honey. You made it out, and I'm proud of you. I really am. Because a lot of us don't get out. A lot of us are left out here hanging the rest of our lives trying to get through life. Because we can't keep jobs, because we don't want nobody around us close enough. We don't want anybody in our world because we're terrified. And then when we have our own children, we don't even know how to raise them or what to do. Some parents give their kids Benadryl because they don't want to deal with it. Some people call the children liars because they don't want to deal with it. Because God forbid if their partner was doing something to their child or their son or their daughter. The light has got to be turned on for these kids because you know what? They're going to grow up one day. I don't want to see them in the prisons and the jails because there was nobody there for them. Nobody to teach them coping skills, job skills. There was nobody there in the 70s and 80s and 90s. Those of us who got out are so fucked up in the head that 5 years of therapy sometimes doesn't cut it. And I still see my therapist. So I don't know why you're all not upset with our government doing what they're doing. And why you all want to focus up on this stupid fucking shit that is really going on. You have your congressmen molesting children. You have your senators fucking your kids. And Hillary Clinton's for the children? Really? Hillary Clinton for the kids. I remember her. What they would do is they would dress us up, these group homes, and promenade us in front of parents. And the parents would walk up and down and say, well, maybe that one. Maybe that one. You would see these kids disappear left and right, and you would never hear from them again. Then all of a sudden, one day, you're on the run, and guess what? You run into them. And they tell you the most horrific story that just makes you want to stab somebody. But no, the government rather keep us on pharmaceuticals because it's easier to keep a kid shut up than to deal with the truth. And the truth of the matter is we have too many fucking congressmen and senators who are pedophiles and know who they are. You men and women know who you are. And Donald Trump is trying to get you the fuck out. Oh my God. The list is so fucking long. I mean, it's like, really? Oh God. I'm just going to read some of this to you. Okay. Let's just go here. 1970 and 79. Okay, John Hayes, Representative Elizabeth Ryan, sex scandal, ended his career in 76. The White House Post reported Ray had been on a payroll of a committee ran by Hayes for 2 years as a clerk secretary. During the time she admitted her actual job duties were providing Congressman Hayes sexual favors. They couldn't even put it on file. It was so disgustingly gross. They couldn't put it out there. That is sad. Then you have Donald Buzz. Then you have Robert Bogman. Then you have Warren Hayes, and he had a daughter. It's just Alan Howard, John Young, Wayne Hayes, Fred Richards, Robert Logat, Donald Buzz, let's see, John Hinson, Thomas Evans, Marilyn Quinn, John Schultz, Don Crane, Gary Hart. Does it tell you what this is? And you all can say WikiLeaks lied about it. You can say the news is hiding it, covering it up. You can say whatever you want. But I'm going to tell you something. You find a foster kid, and they'll tell you what is really up. And they'll tell you the real truth. Because foster parents do promenade their kids at pizzerias, and they do promenade their kids in certain places and certain areas. It's called free advertisement for the government to sell a kid. And it's a disgusting, disgraceful thing that America is so ashamed of it that they have to fucking hide the truth. And the truth is, foster kids matter. The truth is, any kid matters. So every time you see a runaway with his hand out, help him out and listen to him or her. It doesn't matter. If they need a sandwich, you're buying them a sandwich. And if you're buying them a drug, it's because somebody is about to harm that child. But they know the only way they're going to get ahead in life is to sell themselves short. And after a while, when you believe you are nothing, and you've been told you're nothing, it takes a long time to undo the damage. This is Jamie K. Have a wonderful, blessed day. May God be with you. May He watch over your children. May He watch over all the children. Take your heads out of your asses, people, and hug your kid.